So we forget sometimes that we've got these outside threats and we've got climate. And so at Friends of the San Juans, we're really focused on this local land use. That's our history. But we also recognize that there's much larger impacts impacting our community and the Salish Sea. And we have to be thinking about those as well.
And there's no place else on Earth like the San Juan Islands. Yeah. And so we've got to protect it.
Absolutely. With prevention, so you brought up having it was a tug, right, at Roche Harbor. What
An
other
emergency response towing vessel.
Yeah. What other response or prevention type things can we establish here in the community? And have you partnered with IOSA at all, or would you consider partnering with IOSA?
We love IOSA. In fact, it's great to have some of our staff volunteering for IOSA, and we need to actually be equipped and ready, which we're preparing to do, to be able to show where the precious habitat is underwater and on the shorelines, so that when there is, God forbid, a spill, we can share that boom needs to be applied in this way. And that's not my area of expertise, that's IOSA, to be clear, but what our area of expertise is
providing
mapping the eelgrass, mapping those shorelines that we must protect as resilient shorelines, because once a shoreline's gone, once there's destruction to that habitat, it takes so much more investment and energy to rebuild it to where it was. So that's why, you know, what, 3/4 of a mile, I don't know how many square feet, Tina, but you have been devoted over your years supporting Friends of the San Juans as our science director to restoring habitat. So 3/4 of a mile restored. And we know that if we protect those resilient eelgrass beds, for example, we'll have a greater gain. So that's what we want to do, is make sure we're attentive, giving that mapping to all of our agencies, including IOSA, so that they can respond well and know what habitat is under the water. If you haven't met Jess Newley, she's our Director for Community Science and Education. She's amazing. I mean, between all of our professional staff, I'm the newbie, there's a couple other newbies, but I just counted up the other day, 84 years is how long.
With Friends, all of us.
The current staff we have that have been a part of our work, 84 years, that's the collective knowledge that we have on our professional staff. Again, not to mention our board and our science advisors that are on a regular basis feeding us with, like Drew Harvell, U.S. envoy to the State Department, feeds us with, okay, build around these resilient eelgrass beds. And we partner with Friday Harbor Labs to do that. I think it'd be neat to talk about your mapping project, Tina.
Yeah, I did want to talk about the mapping.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about the mapping. So Friends, when I first got hired, it was actually to do the forage fish spawn surveys, and Friends actually has documented, we were just adding up some of these numbers. So forage fish, again, are those little fish that come up at a high tide and lay their eggs on our beaches. They use about 12 miles in those areas that they only, when they're mapped, do they receive protection, or can they be part of the places that we then prioritize for restoration. But we are working on an eelgrass mapping project now. You may remember back 20 years ago, we mapped eelgrass. It was the first countywide maps of eelgrass. Partnering with Friday Harbor Labs, also with our State Department of Natural Resources, we've been back last summer and this summer remapping. And so the exciting part about that is we'll have a 20-year trend assessment, and that'll really help us, again, sort of double down on where are the places we need to protect those resilient beds, where are the places that may need restoration, and again, for the long haul, right? So we need this mapping data to help inform our decisions. It also helps, people, green boaters. We have a great green boater program. Help people make better decisions. It's really easy if you know where the eelgrass is to anchor just deeper than where the eelgrass bed is, right? And so getting that science into the hands of either the managers or the individuals that need it, so that we can all be better stewards.
And can I tell those boaters at home something, Heather? Okay, so if you're a boater, my family, we love boating. We especially love to be green boaters. You can go to sanjuans.org/greenboating and take the pledge, which means you are committing to report any oil spill, no matter how big, any sheen, that you will give Southern residents their space. In fact, Friends of the San Juans led the legislation this last year that helped to require that all recreational boats, in addition to the commercial whale watching boats requirement that's already on the books, but as of January 2025, all recreational boats will be required to give southern resident killer whales 1,000 yards or more space. That's critically important. Pumping out, not dumping out, because who wants to eat in the place where you, CNL2, you're welcome, I moved it for you. And so this green boating work is key, because we know that while we talk about the big systemic concerns with vessel traffic, commercial vessel traffic, we all can engage, we can all be a part of the solution. And you know, as I mentioned, Jess, we are in the schools. We are taking that immersive Salish Sea education through virtual reality headsets
I've seen
into
her
each
headsets.
classroom.
Kids
Heather, I'll bring one
underwater.
for you. You need to check it out if you haven't already. But we're
Very
in
cool.
every high school taking those headsets so our students and our future leaders from these islands can say to their
Yeah,
elected
literally
leaders
see
and their
what's-
families, exactly, literally see what's under the water. And if we see it, we respect it. And if we respect it, we protect it. And we know that we have to have all the different levers to protect our San Juan Islands and Salish Sea, which is why Friends of the San Juans has been doing that for 45 years. This is our birthday year.
Happy
And
birthday.
we really protect the islands and sea through law, education, policy, and science. So you've touched on all of those today. You're good questions, Heather. You know
Oh,
us
good.
because you write about the work.
Let's going back to the green boating specifically for a second. Have you talked to the Roche Harbor Marina, and have you worked with the port so that the boaters there can see?
Yeah, yep. So we've got partnerships with, we just actually, some folks may see them look at marinas and at ports near you. We've done a whole series of green boating signage. So it incorporates all the messages in one place, anchoring out of eelgrass, giving the whales space, thinking about even little spills, you know, your pollution impacts. So Port of Friday Harbor, Washington State Parks, San Juan County Marine Programs through the Environmental Stewardship Department are all partners in that. We're also involved in a transboundary issue, or transboundary coalition. We know boaters, you know, go across the Salish Sea with their boats. And so we've got consistent messaging on both sides of the border. And so marinas like Roche, folks are putting up those signs. And then we also we're working with some of the boater apps, so like Savvy Navi and some of the different boater education tools that, or the tools that boaters use just for navigation, right? We're adding the environmental data to that to make it really easy, kind of one-stop shopping for boaters. So yeah, there's a lot of energy and enthusiasm about that. And again, as Eva talked about, there's large challenges out there, right? There's climate change, there's vessel impacts, but as boaters in the San Juans, and as we know, right, anyone who's been to Susha lately, like it's crowded here. As boaters, we all do have a role to play, and there's some really easy things that we can all do that really will make a difference.
Savvy Navi is a super app if you haven't seen it. I'll do a little infomercial because they're like the Google Maps for the sea. And it really matters when you're going through areas, you're watching for rocks, you're watching for navigation, but then all of a sudden you get a pop-up that says eelgrass protected areas.
Oh,
and so
wow.
we're grateful for their coordination with us to be able to localize. I mean, they're out of the UK, but they're localizing with us how we can protect these resilient eelgrass beds and habitats. And so when you get that pop-up, you know, and it's not good for your anchor to be pulling up.
You'll be dragging, yeah.
All of the, it's not stable. So 35 feet, Tina referenced that we want boaters to be anchoring out of eelgrass, 25 to 35, but 35 feet is safe to really protect that habitat. And you can also sleep better at night because if you're out farther, you have less risk all the way around.
Yeah, but do check out our maps because some of our embayments that aren't as deep, eelgrass actually doesn't grow as deep. So there's practical information for all of our bays.
And there's 85 signs now, right, that are up for boaters at all the marinas with those partners that that will lay out where the eelgrass is in bright green.
Yeah, and it has a QR code so that you can download the map for the whole county.
So do that if you're a boater, and then pay attention to how you can help engage other boaters.
Very good. We're going to take another quick break, and then we'll be back to talk about their volunteer programs and what Islanders can do.
The fun part.
Thanks.
This is one of the variations from Tchaikovsky's piece, Rococo Variations.
And we are back to talk with Eva and Tina about the Friends of the San Juans volunteer programs and what people can do. So let's first delve into the different programs that you guys have.
We are a community-centered organization. So let me just say first off, if you are a little, I don't have a time to volunteer and just want to talk, we want to hear your input. We want to hear your voice because that informs our thinking, right? We don't just do research and science and policy and law. We are committed to education, and that means of ourselves too. So we want to hear stories from all of our island communities and are committed to being both on island and having an open door policy. Where'd the door go? There it is. Okay, you can see our office there, nicely positioned across from the public market. So come on up and tell us what's on your mind. So that's the first. And we actually consider that anyone who volunteers 4 hours or more is a member of Friends of the San Juan. So you don't have to donate to be a member. You can just show up with your time, your expertise, and that might be as expert as being able to walk across the beach and look for crab molts and do a BioBlitz survey, which is super, super fun if you haven't done it, Heather. Or like me, going with our community science project and monitoring for European invasive green crab. Not green, folks, just to be clear, sometimes, but not always green, so do not kill our local native crabs. But that's critically important right now to protect our ecosystems. So I had a fun experience of ending up face first on the mud flats when we counted about 64 crabs to monitor those in partnership with our Washington Sea Grant partners. And then my daughter ended up actually backwards. She's 10. And so between the two of us, we were quite a mess, but it was rewarding
flat,
and
right?
maybe the hardest of our community science projects. So don't let that intimidate you. We have, I think, Tina, I'd love for you to talk a little more about our community science program.
Sure. Yeah, so we have all kinds of volunteers at Friends, so I will talk about the kind of the science side of it and then turn it back to you to talk about kind of the other kinds of ways that people can engage. But she talked about the crab molt, so they're the invasive European green crab. that are a real problem. They eat a lot of shellfish, as we say, by the European and invasive. They're obviously not native here. Only one has been found in San Juan County, and that's why vigilant monitoring is so important. They, rip up the eelgrass as they burrow. They eat our shellfish. They eat other crabs. So we're really highly attuned to that, and we've got volunteers trained across the islands doing those surveys. Over the years, so again, those forage fish surveys with the beach surveys, we had about 150 volunteers, and they provided over 2,400 hours of beach surveys for us for the Forage Fish Project. And we documented 66 new, previously unknown forage fish spawning sites in the county. So that's a really important piece because they're, again, part of that food web. And if we don't know where they are, we're not going to do a good job protecting them. We had community science volunteers last summer helping us with eelgrass snorkel surveys with our collaborative project with Friday Harbor Labs looking at eelgrass disease. Folks are doing monitoring for plastic and beach cleanups, but there's a whole range. Anything, if you have an interest or an expertise, we've got retired lawyers or even active lawyers who are, helping us archive some of our legal history and cases because Friends has been around for 45 years. We've been involved in a lot of the key land use decisions in our community. Again, the vessel traffic work, there's folks that are sort of our eyes and ears on some of that. Our science advisors are volunteers. So again, they're everything from, coming one day to do a beach cleanup to helping with an event that we might do with the schools or something else to all the way to, serving on the board. And I guess I'll let you kind of talk about some of those other opportunities.
Well, it was neat to take 50 people. But by the way, it took us 3 different boats and 5 different island communities and even Bellingham to get all those 50 people to Pecos Island with the amazing leaders from Lummi Nation and their Fisheries Commission and also Tsleil-Waututh First Nation in Canada to really talk about the concerns of vessel traffic. But the intent of that gathering was for us to be able to let them see firsthand those tight turns and the potential for risk, and then the beauty that we're protecting, right? And so taking people on a boat sometimes is the volunteer opportunity, and we then ask of them to commit to being action alert responders. We don't know when we'll have an action alert, but we know we need people to be ready, and we need to be able to call on them quickly. And so those 50 people, I think, were motivated to sign up, and so we know we've got an extra, five times the number of people that we had before that trip because they gave us half a day of their time. And so we're preparing people with that research, with that science to show also how are our farms and forests inextricably linked to that place where land and sea meet, our shorelines, and the need to bring that awareness of all of our volunteers. So I'll share that we've got a really neat effort to basically catalyze again the comprehensive planning process. Some people said, wait, didn't we just do that? Yes, we did just do that as a community, but this one is especially important. We have to engage a strong group of people that will be active in this climate element portion of our comprehensive plan. And we know things like siting of renewable projects and the choices we're making for where we develop. We want to see that development happen in our urban growth area. There's plenty of opportunity. There's fantastic opportunity for great development to happen for affordable housing within the town of Friday Harbor with both private and public and charitable solutions. So we need people, though, to show up, to be a part of that planning process. So again, we can be clear on our collective agreement as a San Juan County community on what we are holding ourselves accountable to. And so I'm thrilled that we now are partnering with the Family Resource Centers, and we are super excited about both, San Juan County, Lopez, and Orcas, all 3 of those resource centers that are coming with us to say we need more voices in our comprehensive planning process. And so we will be engaging people who have not had voice in that process before through that partnership and through leveraging dollars from the Department of Commerce that can go toward those family resource centers, engaging people, again, who have a voice that needs to be heard. We also are partnering with the Madrona Institute on the climate change element of that. So we love partnering, we love engaging, we actually like leaning into the places of debate. And so I would say don't hesitate to engage us if you want to say, hey, I have a different perspective, but I have time to give, and I want to be active in sharing my voice, and we'll do the same and be a part of those relationships.
Yeah. I think that is a good ending. Thank you so much for being here with us, and I hope we touched on all the things, but I feel like this was a really good conversation. We will be back with Jeff next week, and in the meantime, we'll see you on the streets.
Great. Thank you, Heather.
Thanks,
and if you want to learn more, I just encourage folks to go to our website, or as Eva said, drop by the office.
SanJuans.org. It's one of the first ones, I think, that we have on the island, so pretty easy. And you can reach me at eva@sanjuans.org, and then tina@sanjuans.org. Thanks, Heather.
Yeah.
Thank you.
This is one of the variations from Tchaikovsky's piece Rococo Variations.